Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Today is Wednesday, July 26th, and we're glad that you joined us here today. I'll begin by calling the meeting to order. We'll begin this evening with an invocation by Pastor Jeff Barnes of Friends Church. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag . Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor Barnes. All right, it's a great honor and privilege of this Board of Aldermen and myself as the Mayor of Kernersville to recognize significant occasions, individuals, and causes in ceremonial presentations and also special dates. There's a very special date that's celebrated across our nation. It's the first Tuesday in August, and it's called National Night Out. Locally, you may have seen display exhibits on the bulletin boards at Target about it, or you may have participated in past events. Throughout Kernersville over the years, neighborhoods, homeowners associations have organized get-togethers and cookouts. The town has had several different events. One was at Ivy Redmond Park. We've had much success recently having these events at the Farmers Market Shelter. And in keeping with the tradition of the town of Kernersville, and in celebration of the 40th anniversary nationwide of National Night Out, I'll present a special proclamation to Sergeant Nicole Smith. All right, stand a little further out. All right, so thank you. You're welcome. Because we are recording this on YouTube, anyone watching won't be able to hear unless we carry the microphone around, so that's why we're carrying the microphone. All right, whereas the town of Kernersville, along with communities across our nation, are celebrating National Night Out on Tuesday, August 1st, whereas the Kernersville Police Department and the Kernersville Fire Rescue Department have a critically important role throughout the year in promoting community safety, and whereas the annual observance of National Night Out allows first responders to join with the citizens of Kernersville in promoting and celebrating community and cooperative emergency response and community policing efforts, and promotes improved quality of life in our community. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of Kernersville be aware of the importance of community policing efforts and fire prevention efforts, and the positive impact that citizen awareness may have on improving safety in our community. Now, therefore, I, Dawn Morgan, as Mayor of the town of Kernersville, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the evening of Tuesday, August 1st as National Night Out in Kernersville, North Carolina, and welcome the citizens of Kernersville to participate in the community celebration in appreciation of the dedication of the emergency responders of the Kernersville Police Department and Kernersville Fire Rescue Department, and in recognition of the importance of community partnerships and citizen awareness in promoting safety in our town. And on behalf of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen here, I'd like to present this to you, Sergeant.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman. On behalf of myself, the Kernersville Police Department, Kernersville Fire Rescue Department, we would like to invite everyone out Tuesday, August 1st to the Farmers Market from 6 to 8 as an opportunity to meet any police officers, fire rescue personnel, in addition to seeing some antique autos from the Old Salem chapter of the Antique Auto, in addition to several food trucks that have volunteered to participate as well. Look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go.
All right, there are a lot of people in the room tonight. I'd encourage if there's anyone who is not seated to find a seat. And if anyone comes in, if we can help them find a seat. All right, we've got several public hearings, and again, it's really important to listen attentively and to, if you have to have conversations, you can step outside and come back in so that everybody can hear when somebody is speaking. All right, as you came in, there were speaker cards. If there was an agenda item you'd like to speak to, if you could fill out a card and then give it to our town staff here at the front table. We have several public hearings, and the board has adopted a policy for public hearings. It's displayed on the screen. It is published on the agenda you received coming in. When an agenda item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attending shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration. Those speaking in favor speaking first, and those against speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak, and may choose to allow one speaker to utilize that time or choose to allocate the time amongst different speakers. In the event that either proponents or opponents have not designated a speaker or speakers to represent that view, the mayor shall divide the 20 minutes by the number of speakers wishing to address the Board of Aldermen, and each such speaker shall be allowed that given time within which to express his or her comments, ideas, concerns, expressions, and desires. After the opponents speak, the mayor will allow the proponents 5 minutes for rebuttal. If the proponents choose to exercise this option, the opponents will also have 5 minutes for rebuttal. In the event that the proponents do not present a rebuttal, then the opponents shall be given no further time to speak. All right, we do have 2 public hearings. Item 1A is a public hearing on the Kernersville Development Plan. Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, for consideration of an amendment to the Kernersville Development Plan to amend the land use plan as specified on the agenda, zoning docket KDP 66, and that's item 1A. We have 1B, which is a public hearing rezoning. Neil T. Johnson, attorney for BOMA NC LLC owner applicant, a 2-phase conditional use district rezoning from MUS to MUC as described on the agenda, zoning docket K570A4. So they're related cases, so the best way to proceed would probably be to have a combined public hearing and a combined staff presentation. All right, this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. First, we'll hear from our staff. We have Mr. McCarley and Ms. Garner. I'll recognize them at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight's cases include a KDP amendment as well as a rezoning, as you've described. The first one is the Kernersville Development Plan for the Land Use Plan Amendment. This is item KDP 66. The request is to go from a land use plan designation of traditional neighborhood development, business center, private recreation space, and environmental protected to traditional neighborhood development and environmental protected. This applies to portions of parcels as identified and is associated with rezoning case K570A4. This is the existing land use plan for the area of Caleb's Creek under consideration tonight. You'll notice that the blue area here is business center. There's also private recreation in green. There's private open space also in green, and traditional neighborhood development as well as environmental protected. So there's quite a lot of different land use plan designations applied to this site. The land use plan specifically references Caleb's Creek in multiple instances as one of 8 distinct commercial pockets, with commercial and office tracts along I-40 as part of the Union Cross and I-40 commercial corridor, and as a distinct smaller nodal area in Kernersville. The land use plan says the Caleb's Creek development and surrounding area, including the area east to Union Cross Road, is designated as a traditional neighborhood development. These areas are intended to accommodate residential and small-scale commercial buildings, public spaces and amenities, and institutional uses that are mixed in a compact, pedestrian-oriented arrangement to create a village-type sense of place. To achieve that unique sense of place, 3 major T&D components must be included. 1, residential development, 2, neighborhood-serving commercial development, and 3, a street grid layout with pedestrian and bicycle facilities. 4 land use plan designations are applied to the Caleb's Creek development, as we saw in the map a few screens ago. That's traditional neighborhood development, business center, private recreation space, and environmental protected. The land use plan defines traditional neighborhood development as intended to accommodate residential and commercial buildings, public spaces, amenities, and institutional uses in a compact, pedestrian-oriented arrangement designed to lessen the need for a total reliance on the automobile and to generate a sense of community. It references the 3 T&D principles in the 3 major components: the residential development, the commercial development, and the layout of the street system. The intended residential densities for T&D areas should be a net average of at least 5 dwelling units per acre for the total T&D tract. The land use plan defines business center as intended to accommodate a wide variety of employment uses such as office, research, corporate park, and institutional and related uses. Requires a unified design scheme including enhanced facades on the buildings, substantial surrounding landscaping, restrictive site lighting and signage, and full screening of loading areas, and permits no outdoor storage. This was on the map adjacent to Interstate 40. Private recreation space is defined as intended to identify bona fide farms as identified on tax records, properties that have recorded conservation easements, and significant areas reserved as open space that are associated in planned development. And finally, environmental protected are areas that are consistent with FEMA designated flood zones and the North Carolina designated water supply streams and buffers along those streams. Currently, the adopted land use plan appears to key future land use designations to the master plan, which was only illustrative. This makes the designations haphazardly located on the map as they're not tied to a survey. The area around Union Cross I-40 is also changing. There's been significant residential growth in the area and continued support for large employers by Forsyth County, further down on Union Cross, the large industrial complexes there. And commercial uses continue to be developed along Union Cross Road, which may make the business center designation less ideal. As the plan is currently adopted, the rezoning proposal is not in conformance with the land use plan. If the rezoning is to be approved, the land use plan should be amended to retain conformance between the land use plan and the rezoning action. This was heard at the July Planning Board meeting. The recommendation from staff and Planning Board is approval of the resolution to revise the land use plan designations for the portions of these parcels in the rezoning case K570A4 from traditional neighborhood development, business center, private recreation space, and environmental protected to traditional neighborhood development and environmental protected, subject to the rezoning approval of case K570A4. As I mentioned, this was heard at the July Planning Board meeting, and the vote is as follows, with 8-1 and 1 absent. Are there any questions before I move on to the rezoning? Case K570A4.
If you can pause right there, I had a technical question for Adam.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me go talk to you a minute. I'll be right back. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. All right, Ms. Garner, if you could continue.
Case K570A4 is the Caleb's Creek rezoning, with the rezoning requesting to go from mixed-use special use two-phase to mixed-use conditional use two-phase. So the special use to conditional use, as you'll recall, is the change from 160D. This is partially located within the highway corridor overlay along I-40. Let's see, parcels included in the application, there are 4. So Caleb's Creek as a whole includes many more parcels, but these are the only ones that are included in this application. 628.01 acres of the entire development, with total housing units being 2,936 proposed as part of this. The housing units per acre calculates to about 4.67 units per acre. So the scope, as I mentioned, that this includes 4 parcels. So these properties are currently zoned mixed use special use as part of the Caleb's Creek Master Plan adopted in 2016. These are not the portions that have been developed. They do not have final development plans or civil construction plans. Those that do and have been developed are not included in this application. The purpose of this rezoning is to propose a new two-phase entitlement plan for portions of Caleb's Creek that have not been developed or do not have an approved final development plan. It alters the total number of allowable dwelling units and mix of proposed units, and it provides a revised construction phasing plan for road improvements as triggered by the developer's transportation impact analysis. They have also requested vested rights. The proposed uses are as follows, but includes several residential building types, including single family and multifamily. It also includes some low impact commercial, so arts and crafts studio, restaurants without drive-through service, banking and financial services, health services. These are typically uses that are neighborhood supporting. Surrounding zoning districts of the town and Forsyth County include mixed use special use, residential multifamily 8 units per acre special use, residential single family 30, residential single family 12 special use as a planned residential development, mixed use conditional, and Forsyth County agricultural. So Caleb's Creek has been around for a long time as a development. It was first adopted in 2001 with ordinance number 2001-28. This included a mix of residential and commercial uses, a championship-length golf course over approximately 934 acres. Deer Run, Haddington, and Brunswick were the neighborhoods developed under this plan. In 2016, the developer came back with another rezoning request. So this was the second comprehensive readoption. This was ordinance 2016-01, and it retained the mix of residential units. It included commercial and office spaces along I-40. The golf course was removed at this time. Whitehawk, Lakeside, Elk Ridge, and Owls Trail are developed under this plan. There were 2 other rezonings addressed specific planning areas and did not affect the majority of the Caleb's Creek Master Plan. So items 1 and 2, as shown on this screen, are the full and complete rezonings for large areas affecting the trajectory of the development. This is the currently adopted plan. This is the 2016 plan adopted in 2016-01, and it shows many planning areas. It includes the areas that were developed under the 2001 plan, Haddington, Brunswick here off of Watkins Ford Road, and then part of Deer Run. Some of these areas in this plan have been developed. These are all excluded from this application, and everything that is included in tonight's rezoning request has not been developed currently under this proposal. With that, since it was approved in January of 2016 and it encompassed 810 acres compared to tonight's 628.01, we're reducing the amount of area that's included. 2,612 plus residential units were approved with this 2016 plan. So there have been several articles in the paper and various papers about how this is for more residential. It's for 2,900 new units, and that's not entirely true. 2,612 plus were approved with the plan shown here on the left. 564 units have been approved and constructed off the 2001 plan and the 2016 plan. The one thing that this plan, the 2016 plan, did not do is really address how the apartments could be counted in the commercial space. So this is a zoom in on the density tables from the 2016 plan. There were a specified number of units in the low density, medium density, high density, and mixed use areas. So there were a total number of units, and that is where we got the 2,612. Multifamily was allowed in the commercial areas, but it didn't specify how that conversion happened in square footage and what the total density or total units could be, which is one of the reasons that this rezoning is on the table tonight, to clarify some of these issues so that it is clear for all parties. So I just want to correct and try to clarify some things that have been in the paper perhaps incorrectly, that these are not an additional 2,900 units. So the application included several new exhibits to go along with the rezoning. This is Exhibit A. It shows the developer's intended development for all the portions included. Exhibit B is the permitted uses worksheet. This is divided up per planning area. Exhibit C is the park and trail system map, which shows greenways and linear parks that have been developed or are going to be developed under their 2016 approval, and then those that would be constructed as part of this approval. Exhibit D1 is the conceptual street layout map. It includes the street cross sections for the variety of street road types that would be constructed. Exhibit D2 is the North Carolina DOT Transportation Improvement Plan. This has been modified some in further conversation with the developer and DOT, but largely shows the areas that would be constructed in phases. Exhibit E is the Transportation Impact Analysis Update. Exhibit F is the wayfinding and signage exhibit. This was adopted as part of the 2016 plan, and they've included it to show that it would continue forward. Exhibit G is the existing conditions map that shows the wetlands, the streams, the stream buffers, major sewer trunk lines, water infrastructure, and the like. So moving into the staff analysis, the UDO defines the purpose of the mixed-use conditional zoning district as intended to accommodate and positively integrate a balanced mixture of residential, commercial, and in some cases, light industrial uses within the district and the surrounding area. Depending on the existing land use context in which the mixed-use conditional district is proposed, at least 3 distinctly different use components are expected for any zoning proposal. Building mass, rhythm, scale, and transition, as well as a cohesive and connected pedestrian and vehicular network, are key elements of the overall design. And it should offer and include innovation with flexibility in design and layout requirements to achieve a greater choice of living and working environments. The design should be compatible with the natural terrain and surrounding uses, protect natural and/or historic resources, and provide useful open space. It is only permitted through the conditional zoning district process. As a 2-phase rezoning, the final development plan process will allow staff the opportunity to ensure that each final development plan submitted is consistent with the purpose statement of the mixed-use conditional zoning district as shown in the developer's application. So we would be verifying the building design standards, the multiple mixes of uses per planning area, the cohesive and connected transportation network of both minor thoroughfares and streets within the planning areas, and protection of the environmental constraints as designed around Abbott's Creek. Compared to the 2016 plan, the large swath of commercial and office uses along I-40 have been removed. In concert with the smaller neighborhood commercial nodes, this met the mixed-use conditional purpose statement of a balanced mixture of residential, commercial, and in some cases, light industrial uses. The developer contends that in this instance, commercial and office uses are no longer feasible, yet staff has received 2 rezoning applications for commercial or mixed-use projects along Union Cross Road in proximity to Caleb's Creek. The mixed-use conditional purpose statement also contends that any development should be compatible with the surrounding uses. Southeastern Forsyth County has traditionally been farmland and very low-density residential, though this is changing. Some of the surrounding developments include Watkins Landing Phases 1 and 2, which are at 2.89 units per acre, Watkins Landing Phase 3, which is at 2.0 units per acre, Atkins Farm at 2.6 units per acre. There are older developments that are even lower in density, especially large single lots development that is not considered within a neighborhood. On that same front, though, there are developments that do have greater density. The question has come up about Weldon. Weldon's density ranges per neighborhood, with the apartment areas being a much higher density than some of the single-family areas, but it averages across the site at just over 7 units per acre. The current Caleb's Creek Master Plan does not squarely fit, but is neither squarely excluded from achieving the purposes of the mixed-use conditional zoning district. Keeping the mixed-use conditional zoning district does provide continuity between older areas of Caleb's Creek that have already been developed with the areas that are under consideration today. This is helpful when developing a site, a large common plan of development. On the uses, submittal, the developer's Exhibit B is a proposed use table that would apply to the planning areas of the developer's Exhibit A. Verification of each use would occur at final development plan review by the planning board. The mix of residential uses appears to be consistent with the intent of the mixed-use conditional zoning district, but staff does not believe that the residential building urban is an appropriate use in the planning areas that are not proposed to include residential building multifamily. Condition number 4 proposes to eliminate the residential building urban use from planning areas 100, 103, 104, and 105. The commercial uses proposed are lower in intensity than those in 2016, consisting of mostly personal service type uses. Those commercial uses being lower intensity are appropriate for commercial nodes within residential areas and would help this proposal fit the mixed-use conditional zoning district's purpose statement. We touched briefly on density before, but the 2016 zoning is 3.22 units per acre in density across that 810 acres. There are issues with the conflict between the approved uses per planning area and density stated per planning area, calculation of the number of multifamily units permittable in the commercial and office planning area, which is why this rezoning seeks to clean up a lot of that and reduce the ambiguity. With the 2023 request across the 628 acres, that's about a 4.67 units per acre density with the 2,936 units. So that with the 564 that have already been developed, this would bring the total to 3,500 housing units. And even with the discrepancy and kind of the oddities of the 2016 plan, it's not much more than what could have been developed under the 2016 plan. The difference is maybe a couple hundred houses. So again, to clarify, there's not a giant new phase of Caleb's Creek that's proposed. This is just a refashioning of what is already entitled. Across Caleb's Creek, with the 2001 and 2016 plan, plus those requested in the 2023 proposal, it averages to about 4.31 units per acre. So the difference between the full build out at the 2016 plan and the requested tonight is 1.09 units per acre across the entire development. Building material and design is also important in the mixed-use conditional purpose statement. Conditions were adopted with the 2016 rezoning that prescribed building material and design standards for residential and commercial development in lieu of a vision book with specific architectural standards. Staff is recommending that we keep the design standards for residential structures to retain harmony within the development, keep the Central Kernersville Overlay District standards, which are our most restrictive architectural standards for non-single family development outside planning areas 101 and 102. And in planning areas 101 and 102, which are along I-40, those are covered under the Highway Corridor Overlay District standards, and so we would propose to apply those there since they're already on the books. The Kernersville Development Plan incorporates several other plans under its umbrella. The Thoroughfare and Street Plan, which guides future transportation planning beyond the immediate impacts of a specific zoning proposal, and the Land Use Plan, which provides for the big picture of development and which uses should be approved for specific areas to promote orderly growth and achieve the goals established in the Kernersville Development Plan. The Thoroughfare and Street Plan anticipates several east to west routes. Ogden School Road to Union Cross Road, which is often called the Glen High Connector, and the Temple School Road extension. The plan also anticipates another linkage, the State Route 4312 connection from Teague Lane to Glenview. So that one is in blue here at the top. Temple School Road is this dashed green down to the south between Ogden and Watkins Ford, and then the Ogden School Road to Glen High connector is here that would connect to Union Cross. Developers Exhibit D2 does show the construction of Ogden School Road to the western edge of Caleb's Creek. It provides the final internal connections to Deer Run residents and sets up the future completion of Ogden School Road and the Glen High connector. The Temple School Road connection should be provided in Planning Area 106. The developer has to build a road to access that area anyways. Location of the road now is not consistent with the existing location in the plan, though this could be modified at a future date, as the dashed line is illustrative. State Route 4312 is shown extending to Teague Lane. It is adjusted on the plan as well. As we discussed in KDP 66, the land use plan map shows 4 different land use designations based on the 2016 master plan. These designations are keyed to an illustrative master plan that has not been surveyed, and so the designations are only approximately located. KDP 66 proposes to reduce the 4 designations to the 2 most applicable with the developer's proposal. The 4 being traditional neighborhood development, business center, private recreation space, and environmental protected. KDP 66 proposes to retain traditional neighborhood development and environmental protected. There was a condition in the 2016 plan that has been proposed with the 2023 plan that would specify the amount of acreage that should be retained as open space or conservation areas. That condition has been carried forward into the 2023 plan. So there was some concern at Planning Board about whether or not it would be expected of the developer to provide that if the land use plan designation was removed. And I hope that alleviates any concerns that residents have that we would be looking for that 312 acres as we were in the 2016 plan. Caleb's Creek is located within the Abbott's Creek watershed, which is a Type 3 regulatory watershed. Abbott's Creek itself bisects the project from north to south, which imposes riparian buffer, floodplain, and wetland-specific regulations. Presence of environmental constraints means additional permitting will be required from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. This would include the jurisdictional determination, a 401 certification, and the 404 permit. The Caleb's Creek Master HOA will be responsible for maintaining the stormwater control measures. The UDO requires the developer to create and the HOA to maintain an escrow account to provide funds for significant maintenance costs associated with the stormwater control measures. The 2016 Caleb's Creek approval also required the developer to treat at least 30% of water runoff through the low impact development practices. A condition is proposed that will maintain the LID treatment requirement to be consistent with the 2016 development and protect Abbott's Creek watershed. The 2016 rezoning tied significant road improvements to the final phase of construction of certain developments. Construction of the final phases has commenced for RL 23, which is the lakeside community on the north end of Teague Lane, or triggering the north end of Teague Lane, and then RL 7, which is the Owls Trail on the south end of Teague Lane. The developer has proposed a phased approach to completion of these road improvements as shown in Exhibit D2. Staff has proposed conditions to further the following: attain completion of previously triggered road improvements, as well as construction of new roads, and coordinate construction to road improvements in a phased manner. Earlier rezonings self-obligated the developer to retain open land for Caleb's Creek Elementary School's runoff so the property could remain low-impact development. This has been documented in a notarized agreement between the developer and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System. The developer has received written response from Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools regarding a renegotiation of the agreement. Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools also received a copy of the rezoning proposal and did not have any comments at this time as part of the Development Review Committee process. They will also receive notification of final development plans if approved. Planning Board and staff's recommendation is to move to amend the Unified Development Ordinance of the town by rezoning the property in case K 570A4 from MUS to MUC, finding the rezoning is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and subject to approval of its associated case KDP 66, and further being both reasonable and in the public interest because of the following. The petitioner has requested a conditional use district rezoning to allow the specific site plan to be considered with the subsequent requirement of detailed final development plans to be submitted for Planning Board's review. This will ensure development of specific planning areas as identified in the developer submitted Exhibit A, meets all applicable regulations, and has obtained all necessary federal and state permitting. The petitioner's plan will add residential housing units of multiple types in order to offer choice and selection in the housing market with a density differential of 1.09 additional units per acre. And the petitioner's plan provides a coordinated approach to construction across the Caleb's Creek Common Plan of Development. Planning Board and staff also recommend approval of the site plan and the conditions as submitted in the staff report, except as modified as follows. The first several conditions were shown to Planning Board, and they were also recommended for approval by Planning Board. So condition number 19 has been amended from the original in the staff report to say completion of construction of any linear park and/or trail amenity, whether public or privately dedicated, shall occur prior to approval of a final plat for each phase of the respective planning areas. The rationale being that this fixes an inconsistency with condition number 53, and it still requires the linear park and trail improvements with each platted phase. Condition number 21 proposed reads, a minimum area of 30,000 square feet shall be developed for public access to the amenities at the lakes. A minimum of 15,000 square feet shall be developed in planning area 104, with the remainder square footage divided between planning areas 100 and or planning area 103. No area shall be less than 5,000 square feet. Location and layout shall be submitted as part of the final development plans for the respective sections. The 425 by 70 feet parking lot was in the 2016 rezoning, and we felt that the purpose of the parking lot, which is to provide access to the lakes, could be better designed so that it was not quite as intrusive to the neighborhood while still providing the ability to access the lake. So 30,000 square feet is 425 by 70. So this retains public access to the lake and prevents concentration of parking and provides access at multiple points to serve residents. Condition number 25 is prior to substantial completion of each construction phase, the developer may plat no more than 50 single-family lots in each affected planning area. If affected planning area includes multifamily residential units, the plat or initial phase shall be restricted to no more than 150 units. The rationale being the developer has argued that 150 units better reflects a phase of multifamily development. Condition number 4 reads, at such time that Ogden School Road Phase 1 is completed and developer has constructed a permanent entrance to the Caleb's Creek Amenity Center and Pool, the developer may remove the temporary access from Elk Ridge Drive and submit a plat for approval as a single-family lot. And this cleaned up a typo. Condition number 40 is about the low-impact development, and this would allow the developer to utilize low-impact development credits from areas developed under O-2016-01 to meet the total LID percentage across the development. And the rationale being that the developer would be able to utilize existing LID credits. So these were the conditions that were modified and recommended for approval by staff and planning board. These are additional staff recommendations that have been modified even since planning board. Number 5 reads a comprehensive jurisdictional determination, preliminary jurisdictional determination, or concurrence with delineation issued in writing by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers shall be required prior to the submittal of the first final development plan. The approval issued by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers shall encompass the entire acreage included in K570A4. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers may issue one of 3 approvals listed above. We had extensive conversation with staff at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They were unsure of what their process was going to be, but it would be one of those 3. So we just said, okay, we would like it in writing from the Army Corps of Engineers themselves. Condition number 23 is related to traffic and the transportation improvements. So the developer shall commence road construction and maintain continuous progress on Teague Lane and Ogden School roads in accordance with developer's Exhibit D2. Construction shall be in accordance with the developer's proposed timetable as detailed in the table below. Road construction shall be substantially completed per construction stage prior to progressing to the next stage. So the table here, which has been shrunk down, lists 5 stages instead of 4. And so each stage has a construction window. And there are phases within each stage and affected planning areas. So the developer must become substantially complete in each construction phase before they're allowed to move on to the next construction stage. So that prevents multiple developments occurring in multiple areas without the comprehensive road improvements that are required. So the rationale behind this change from 4 stages to 5 stages is that the developer seeks to break down the roadwork phases into additional stages. The overall start and end time, fall 2023 to spring 2027, remains the same, and the ability to move on to an additional stage, and therefore the associated planning areas, still hinges on the substantial completion of each stage. Condition number 48 is about the 4-party agreement from 2001 between the town of Kernersville and the developer and CCUC about the sewer infrastructure. So there was a fee amount that was agreed upon with a 10% fee increase every 3 years following the adoption in 2001 and readoption in 2016. Finance Department recalculated the amount that we had in the Capital Reserve Fund that we've been collecting on building permits. And so the number that they originally estimated was incorrect. So the balance is $2,018,779. So that number has been changed in condition number 48. This was heard at the July Planning Board meeting. The votes are on the screen with 8 to 1 and 1 absent as shown. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does the board have any questions of Ms. Garner at this time? Mr. McCarley, did you have any other comments to add to what Ms. Garner said?
Thank you. I have a separate recommendation. I would recommend approval. First, approval would likely pave the way for sale of large parcels to home builders, and that would hasten the completion of roadway infrastructure and community amenities. And second, this application resolves the ambiguities from the 2016 rezoning and avoids the probability of litigation to resolve those ambiguities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCarley. Ms. Garner, did you have anything else?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swisher, did you or Ed have anything to present? Okay, thank you.
No comments.
Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing. The public hearing's open. Clearly, there's a lot of interest in this public hearing, and there have been a lot of people signed up to speak. Signed up to speak for proponents, I have Mr. Neil Johnson. Is that correct? Well, wait a minute before you stand up. All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor? All right. Signed up to speak as opponents, I have several people. I've got Harry Davis, Jeremy Gilley, Beth Tucker, Adolphus Baker, Patricia Hull, James Pierce, and Barry Browning. I also have Eve Hoberick, and wishing to give their time to Eve, I have Joyce Kreider, Gary Holsworth, Diane Holsworth, Monty Hanna, Barbara Bilconish, Charles Bilconish, Kathy Vital, Ben Vital. Have I missed anybody who filled out a card? Is there anyone else who'd like to fill out a card and submit it for speaking either as a proponent or an opponent? The cards are at the back of the room. What's your name? So Sharon Grisgrave, where are you? You have signed up to speak opposed, but you have as subject future projects planned, question mark. Are you here about the zoning docket we're talking about, or just future projects in general? I can't take your point right now. I just need to know if you would, also have speakers from the floor on non-agenda items, or are you talking about this specific zoning proposal and this specific development plan? Okay, all right. Okay, then I have John Nichols signed up in favor to speak, so I have 2 people in favor. All right. Mr. Nichols, how much time do you think you need to speak? Okay, how about 2 minutes? Neil, are you okay with 18 minutes? Okay. All right. All right, where's Eve? How much time do you need, Eve? Do you think you could do it in 6 minutes? How much time are you wanting? I don't know that we can do 10 with this many people signed up to speak. Okay. All right, that will give us 2 minutes for, let me go ahead and make sure everyone's in the room. Harry, if you'll raise your hand if you're in the room. Okay. Jeremy? Beth? Adolphus? Patricia? Barry? Sharon? Okay, so each of you will have 2 minutes, if you can do it. Or do you need less? What we'll do is we'll start the clock at 20 and count it down. So if there's room at the end, then more points can be made. One way to have this many people speak is if you try not to repeat the points other people have made. You could say, that point, I would like to make that point as well, and then move on quickly. And then we'll have Eve with 6 minutes right in the middle. All right, so the order will be Harry first, Jeremy second, Eve third, Beth fourth, Adolphus fifth, Patricia sixth, Barry seventh, and Sharon eighth. And then we'll have Neil first and John second.
Madam Mayor, may I make the people aware that the time clock will start after you give your name and address. Your time will start after that, okay?
Okay, at this time, I'd like to recognize Neil Johnson, and we'll call time at 18 minutes, unless you'd like a warning at 16. Would you like a warning at 16, or just go ahead? Okay. All right, go ahead. Mr. Swisher, if you can check and see if his microphone's on.
All right, how about now? Much better? All right, now? No. All right, how about that? All right, I'll hold it.
It's best to speak directly on.
Right like this.
That's the best.
All right. Madam Mayor, Aldermen, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of BOMA of North Carolina LLC, the developer of Caleb's Creek. I'm Neil Johnson, their attorney. My address is 203 North Elm Street, Suite 1200, Greensboro, North Carolina 27401. I'd like to begin tonight by thanking the town staff, Ms. Garner, Mr. Swisher, Chris Jensen, and many others, and also your counsel, Mac McCarley, who over the last year has worked with me and the developers at BOMA to try to develop a resolution of these issues that we have trying to interpret the vested rights that are in the 2016 zoning and to reach a plan to go forward. It's been a long process. There's been a lot of give and take, but what we have today is a good product that I think everybody can get behind and move the development forward. It fixes the major problems with the development. Ms. Garner mentioned a few of them. I'd like to give you a little bit more detail, but I'm going to move through that really quickly so that I can hit a few other points responsive to some of the concerns we know you're hearing about. Next slide, please. So you've seen something like this in the initial staff presentation. This is an example of what is in the current 2016 zoning. And you can see that it has one of the many planning areas. It has the acreage, a density, and then a total number of units. The problem that we run into is that the acreages themselves are not stated correctly, and they sometimes change. If there is a border that moves slightly, the acreage changes. And so when that happens, what do you use? Do you use the 4 per acre that's in the chart, or do you use the unit total as a cap? And what does that do to how you're developing out a particular spot? The new zoning fixes that. It simply goes with a number of units, and it has large planning areas so that you have plenty of room to move things around in ways that make sense. They're bordered by major roads, they're bordered by ponds or the edge of the development. And so that allows the flexibility that one needs in the planning process to allocate the units in a particular area where they belong. Next slide, please. So this is another area where you can see the problem. Along the north side of the development on that map, this is CO3 through CO7, and next to it, the zoning chart for that, or an excerpt of it. That was intended to be commercial development along the corridor, and it is has stated acreages and square feet of commercial space. The acreage that's on the chart is 48.85 acres. The actual acreage is 70.27. Next slide, please. If you look at the permitted uses for that area, they include multifamily. And so the question is, how do you figure out how many multifamily units can you put in those spaces? One way to do it, 18 units per acre is the upper limit in the UDO. You could multiply the acreage by that, but then which acreage do you use? The actual acreage or the acreage in the table? Next slide, please. This is a better representation of what the table actually looks like. And what you see is, unlike the residential areas, which had 4 per acre, 8 per acre, or 12 per acre, this has no density at all and no units. But it does have commercial square footage. So yet another way to calculate how many units is to figure out how big the apartments are going to be. and to divide them into the square footage basically of the ground floor of a big box store and count units that way. In other words, in the commercial areas, the 2016 zoning provides almost no guidance as to how many units you can build if you build multifamily, which is a permitted use, up in the commercial areas up against I-40. Next slide, please. You see the same problem in the mixed-use areas that are in the center of the development. So in the center of the development, it calls for another almost 230,000 of square foot commercial and this time it has units, but you still have to figure out how, if you were going to build apartments there, how would you deal with the commercial space? And it also concentrates density inside the center of the development. Next slide, please. As you look at the overall densities, and our calculations are slightly different, which perhaps may illustrate the difficulty of this. We have Blackburn at 5.83 units per acre. We have the T&D and the land use is 5 per acre. We have Weldon at 4.93 per acre, and Caleb's Creek in the new rezoned area at 4.67. But if you take all of Caleb's Creek afterwards, that's 4.31. In other words, of the other similar developments in the area, Blackburn and Weldon, and based on the land use map, what you would put there, 5 plus, Caleb's Creek is substantially lower in overall density. Our understanding is this is one of your concerns, and we hope that this plan has addressed that. The other thing the plan has done is to move density around. Next slide, please. So you can see here in the old Caleb's Creek 2016 map, the different areas, the RL, RM, those have to do with densities for residential development. Next slide, please. What we've done is to take the densities that are in there and we've overlaid them with colors on the new 2023 zoning petition. When you look at this, this is 2016, and where you see green, it's less than 4 per acre. Where you see yellow, it's 4 to 8 per acre. Where you see red or orange, it's more. And where you see purple, it's commercial. The new 2023 moves the density, as the town has requested, from the center of the development up along I-40. Next slide, please. So under the 2023 plan, you can see there are some areas that are 4 per acre that are still there, but now you see a bunch of green. The green are the areas that are less than 4 per acre. Those are single-family home areas, and their overall density there has dropped. And then you see up along the corridor where the apartments are going to be, you see those commercial areas now as multifamily, and their density is higher. And so as the town has requested, the 2023 zoning petition moves the density northward along I-40. All of this is workable from a zoning perspective. The town can implement it. They know what to do. We can implement it in the field. We know what to do. The 2023 zoning solves some of these problems that we had with the 2016. And for that reason, it does more of what you want. It does more of what the developer needs. So during the, next slide, please. During the planning board, we listened very carefully to what people who were speaking in opposition to the zoning had to say. I know you're getting a lot of calls about this, and I want to make sure that we address some of these concerns directly. So the first set of points of opposition had to do with things that were directly related to the zoning itself. One of them was opposition to a NCDOT divided median along Teague Lane. The other is the effect of this density on traffic and amenities. And so I'd like to address those points head on. So if you could take a look, please, at the next slide. The first thing you need to know about the divided median is that that is a DOT requirement. It is not really a zoning issue. The DOT owns the state roads. Teague Lane is a state road. The DOT tells us where medians have to be. And so while we understand why residents would be concerned about restricting their access in and out of their subdivisions, that's not something that can really be controlled. And that's also something that's in the 2016 zoning as well. This is an issue that is probably misdirected at the town and misdirected at us. It really belongs with a discussion with DOT as we're finalizing the plans for the road. The next thing had to do with traffic. So as we've discussed, the change in uses has moved density up to the north side. And as a result of this change in use, change in density, BOMA commissioned a new traffic study for 2023 that takes into account 2023 conditions, not 2016 conditions, and corrects some of the flawed assumptions that were in the 2016 traffic study. The first thing that you'll notice is that the overall number of trips has dropped from 36,769 down to 28,140. In other words, the change in uses has resulted in a significant decrease in the amount of traffic that's hitting those roads. The second serious problem with the 2016 zoning on the roads has to do with triggers for when the infrastructure is built and the timing and phasing. The 2023 package resolves all of that. The chart that you saw was a little small and hard to read, but basically it lays out year by year, building season by building season, what gets built and in what order, and it's phased so that it supports the individual developments that are being built out. The other thing that is critically important here is that plan has been prepared in coordination with DOT, whereas the 2016 plan was done without a lot of DOT input. This plan has had a lot of DOT input, and we have confidence that it can be built, that they will receive and approve plans, and that they're comfortable with these road sections. Next slide, please. So the other concerns that we heard were not entirely related to the zoning, but they had to do with the use of the Caleb's Creek pool and clubhouse. I know you've all heard a lot from residents about the pool and the clubhouse, so I wanted to address some of those concerns. This is a concept plan of the area that's up along the highway showing the 3 apartment complexes, and the circled areas show where there are going to be pools are contemplated. Now, we don't control who's going to build the complexes. We don't control exactly what they'll put in, but we do have a proposal to deal with that problem, and we would offer to add a condition that the folks who live in the apartment complexes on the north side would not have access to the single-family clubhouse and pool. We've previously provided to your council a copy of that, and if you'll put up the next slide, please. This is the proposed condition. We propose that residents of the apartment complexes in PA 101 and PA 102 will not have access to the Caleb's Creek Clubhouse and pool in MU4 unless otherwise determined by the master HOA for Caleb's Creek after the end of developer control. In other words, the homeowners themselves can decide who can participate after the developer is no longer in control of the facility. Next slide, please. So in addition to the issues related to the zoning, there were a number of issues that were not related to the zoning. One of them is the size of the pool. One of them has to do with builder construction issues in Whitehawk. And I would point out that the builder in this case is H&H Homes of Fayetteville, not BOMA. And then the third is general construction and maintenance issues. Next slide, please. So after hearing the concerns about the size of the pool, we decided to compare it to the Weldon pool. And what you see here is the Caleb's Creek pool to scale, laid over the Weldon pool also to scale. The light blue cyan is the Caleb's Creek pool on top. The gray is the Weldon pool. And what you notice about it right away is they're both junior Olympic pools. They have about a 3,000 gallon difference in total capacity. And most of that 3,000 gallons is in that stairway area off the side, which is another way that one could enter the pool at Weldon. The fan's a little wider and shorter versus a little longer and narrower, but these pools are basically the same. The complaints about the Caleb's Creek pool being small or unusually tiny. They're just not factual. Next slide, please. There have been a number of issues. Yes, ma'am.
If you, Mr. Johnson, to stop you there. If you have conversations, if you want to share humor with who you're sitting with, please take it to the lobby or outside, okay? We need to be able to hear everybody's remarks, and I'll ask the same courtesy from the developers to you. Go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. The second major issue expressed at the planning board had to do with builder construction issues at Whitehawk. The builder, H&H Homes, was sold right before they finished their warranty obligations. That left some punch list items unfinished. And so the first thing I'd like to say about this is these repair issues for the general contractor who built the homes are in the old 2016 zoning area, and they have nothing to do with the 2023 rezone, which is dealing only with undeveloped areas around the site. The second thing is BOMA is a developer, not a builder. BOMA doesn't build houses. It builds infrastructure, it builds building pads, subdivides and sells finished lots to builders. The builders build out the houses. They sell the houses to individuals, and the responsibility for the construction that they do on the lots is to their customers. Notwithstanding that, and even though BOMA doesn't have any responsibility to fix warranty issues, BOMA has taken direct action with H&H to help the homeowners get these problems fixed. There is a signed agreement between H&H's ownership and BOMA that allows BOMA to go in and fix these things, and BOMA at its own expense has hired a general contractor. That general contractor has scheduled the work, and it will begin shortly. That's above and beyond what any developer should have to do. But because the reputation of the development is at stake, BOMA has taken that extraordinary step. And I hope people will recognize that for what it is, which is a good faith effort to address these concerns of the residents in a positive way. The last thing I would mention on that is that there have been the usual array of miscellaneous complaints about maintenance of trails, erosion control measures, construction issues. BOMA's working hard to address those complaints as they happen and to make sure they don't happen again. But it's a construction site. And on a construction site, there's going to be dust, there's going to be noise, there's going to be water and mud. That's just part of developing the site out. They will do everything they can to make that better. But those miscellaneous construction issues are present on every job site, and they have nothing to do with the land use plan or rezoning of the undeveloped parts of the project. So in conclusion, next slide, please. This is an important project for the town and an important project for BOMA. If you use 2023 valuations and 2023 full build out at $2023, the annual tax revenue from the undeveloped part of Caleb's Creek would be approximately $6.2 million. That is a significant added tax benefit and tax base to Kernersville. I believe when I looked at the proposed budget for this year, it's showing approximately $22.1 million as the town's ad valorem tax revenue. This represents about a 28% bump to that in today's dollars. Of course, that's assuming full build out. But it gives an idea of the impact that the development will have and the positive impact it'll have on the finances of the town. So in closing, this rezoning petition settles a dispute about a series of ambiguities in the 2016 zoning, resolves how and when roads get built, resolves exactly what trails are going to be put where and who will own them. It will expedite the construction of 2 new state roads, SR 4312, Ogden School Road Extension. It will result in significant improvements to Teague Lane, and it will add a new thing that is not in the 2016 zoning. It will build out the Ogden School Road Teague Lane intersection.
Time. Here.
Thank you very much, and I humbly ask that you support the rezoning proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'll now recognize John Nichols.
Luke? All right. Hey, I'm John Nichols of 444 Lindsay Street, Apartment J. My support is pretty simple. I've been saving for a home for a few years, and I've just found housing prices just continue to climb and climb and climb, which is great for everybody who owns a home, but I don't. I would like to own a home and get some equity. So I think any plan that allows more housing in the area would be really beneficial. I don't know if I could afford these. I haven't seen any prices or anything, but I just think that would help in general. Basic supply and demand, more housing should help with prices. I guess I'll also say I've lived in the area my whole life. My parents have a home off of High Point Road, just around the corner from here. My mom also lives off of Old Salem Road, so I know the area well. I used to actually work at Pine Tree Golf Course. I actually lost my job because of Caleb's Creek, but if that helps with the housing in the area, I think that's a positive thing. I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, in 57 seconds, do you have anything else to say? You need to speak from the microphone because that's how we catch it in the minutes and that's how it can be heard on YouTube.
Thank you. I wanted to clear up one point about the road construction. Ogden School Road and State Road 4312 would be extended westward. The Old Salem Teague Lane intersection is the one that would receive the intersection improvements for traffic enhancement. Other than that, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. Now I'll recognize the opponents. We have Harry Davis first, and you'll have 2 minutes. Mr. Davis, is your microphone on? Is it green?
Is that on? Is that on? My name is Harry Davis. I live at 1676 Pine Tree Lane. It's adjacent to the old number 9 hole at Pine Tree Golf Course. I've been around for 50 plus years out there. I'm here to speak in opposition to stuff moving forward. First of all, reason number 1, you guys have a flyer up there. There's a slight change in information, but the point will be clear. Kernersville, according to Wikipedia, is 18 square miles. That equates to 11,520 acres. The 2020 census says that the town of Kernersville population was about 26,841. That's 2.32 persons per acre. The developer's wanting rezoning for its 2936 units on 628 acres. If you believe Google, they say in 2022, the average family size in the U.S. was 3.13 persons. I rounded down to 3. That's going to give us about 8,808 persons on 620 acres, or a density of, or a yield for people of 14.02 people per acre. I don't know how much space there's going to be after you put that many people on an acre of land, or an average. There's ponds and other stuff out there. Anyway, reason number 2, environmental impact. First of all, I don't think anything is miscellaneous when it comes to environmental impact, but if you refer to the handout I gave you, the letter of approval from North Carolina DEQ on page 2, it clearly references North Carolina Sedimentation Pollution Control Act is performance-oriented, requiring protection of existing natural resources and adjoining properties. Second paragraph from the end, acceptance and approval of the plan is conditioned upon your compliance with federal and state water quality laws, regulations, and rules. There's been 3 violations this year from Diener DEQ about the Sedimentation Pollution Control Act. The town of Kernersville has issued 1 notice of violation for failure to comply with a previous NOV served. Numerous pics showing wet and dry conditions. I am very aware that conditions change, but there should be something done there. Fourth reason, I'll skip down, easement to 1676 Pine Tree Lane. I've been trying to get for 15 months a recorded, documented easement. I'm looking for the information that we need to be able to make a decision and move forward.
Mr. Davis, your time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeremy Gilly?
Got me? My name is Jeremy Gilly. I live at 1653 Haddington Point Drive, and I'm the HOA president for Haddington, and speaking in opposition. I want to make sure that when we add all these people, not only are the roads ready, but are our schools ready? I have two young kids. They were here earlier. They kind of got a little loud. They left. Are the schools ready? That's a lot of people adding to the schools that are already, if you've been at that intersection at Old Salem and Teague in the morning when those schools are in, and then you've got the two other ones the other way. We also have Bishop McGinnis and Glen High. We're going to have more traffic cutting through those neighborhoods with these roads that are cutting through now. I don't know how many people are really going to use Ogden. Old Salem probably needs to go with Weldon. I don't know what plans are for that end besides that traffic circle, but we need a lot more lanes on Old Salem if we're going to add this many people. We also want to make sure that there are not only greenway trails, we want to make sure that there's parks as part of this proposal somewhere in Caleb's Creek besides the lakes. We were supposed to have one in Haddington. Now our linear park is that green area that actually is mostly privately owned by Haddington owners on T Lane. So we want to make sure that's taken care of. And we want to make sure that with the added people or the police, I know they're adding to the fire station, but we also kind of lost that one on Teague where it kind of combined with the one there at Union Cross. We want to make sure the police and fire are ready for that many, just in case we have any instances like that. We have some people in the neighborhood that have had to have medical services and whatnot. We want to make sure that's not going to be degraded by the added density. We just want to make sure that they're held accountable to the plan because there's been changes since Haddington's been around. I've been in this, I've been there 7 years, and it's always something that's kind of like a bait and switch all the time. They're changing things here, they're changing things there. We just want to make sure like the kids are taken care of with parks, with swings, with stuff like that, and not just walking trails. They've kind of taken some green space away. We've added some density, but in the pool, I don't know. We were promised Olympic, not Junior Olympic, and I'm sorry we could all pack in there like sardines. But you do what you do. That's fine. I think that's my time, right?
Okay. Yes, you're out of time. Thank you. And the microphone can stay on between speakers. It's just the button. It's on? Okay. Ms. Eve Hobrick? And 6 minutes, please.
Is it on still? Thank you. My name is Eve Haberek. I live at 1623 Cooper's Hawk Drive. The gentleman before me mentioned his children, and I'm glad he did. My husband and I live by a simple philosophy. Anytime we are faced with a decision, we think of what we would want for our children or what we would want our children, their decision to be as adults. Zoning is not about the land, it's about the people. People create the yield. And as they said before me, 3,500 families can create, depending on the statistics, up to 11,000 more people in an area that, if I'm correct, is about 25% of the population and a few square feet of Kernersville. Schools would be overcrowded. They're not going to add trailers. Student-teacher ratios. Is the developer willing to add another school along with these people? The environmental runoff, the neglect, it will increase. It will not decrease. More building, more problems. None of the violations to date have been corrected. And those are only the violations that the government is aware of. The people who live there know of many more. So it was mentioned the continuity between what is built and what is proposed. The continuity is we still have no pool. We have no lakes. We have no runoff. We have no trails. We do not have walking trails. We have 50-plus-year-old golf carts that are broken up, not maintained. They're very hazardous for people. And along with the violations, we talked about the dust. The dust has been ongoing. I have not seen the water truck moved once. I have taken pictures every day, and the tires are still in the same place. It has not been used. I know of several people in the neighborhood who have had breathing issues, two of which have gone to the doctor and been told that it is a result of the dust. One of which, our neighbor Gray Moser, who is in the hospital right now with pneumonia. So the track record of repeating the same things over and over and over and expecting different results is not happening. Since 2001, there have been 4 rezonings, and still to date, nothing is really complete. No pool, no clubhouse, and by the way, we were promised a clubhouse by the lake with kayaking, and I'd be glad to hand this out. Sorry, gotta hurry. And it's a shame that over 500 families have to split 20 minutes of time in representation. It really is. But this is what we were proposed. Anybody who's even driven by knows that we are nowhere near that. And with this rezoning, I don't think we ever will be near that. The fact that the outdoor recreation zoning is being taken out, the development may say that he will still have outdoor recreation, but it gives him the option to have much less. As a matter of fact, I have an email from him when someone told him that I was concerned about that. He sent me an email and he said, we are still planning to install improvements along the lakefront, including formal pedestrian access and parking areas for access to both the lakefront and the trails, which are really golf cart paths. These cannot be installed until the North Carolina State Dam Review authorizes it. And he goes on to speak about that. He also says they are leaving room for 2 future commercial buildings. They will have a playground, and an additional pool if needed. These are their words. So to go on with the track record, as I said, since the early 2000s, they've had a plan, a zoning change, nothing happens. So they have a new plan, a zoning change, nothing happens. Yet they keep getting this approval over and over again.
Ms. Hobart, your time is up.
I'm sorry?
Your time is up.
Well,
Thank you.
they get rewarded.
Thank you, Ms.
And the
Hubrick.
people get punished.
I'll now recognize Beth Tucker.
I'd My name's Beth Tucker. I live at 7255 Watkins Ford Road, Kernersville. My son and I own in excess of 143 acres on the south end of Tig Lane, and we are very familiar with the area as we've lived here all of our lives. There's a whole lot of things that's not been addressed tonight, and it's questions about the road and the travel, mostly. We would like to also know exactly how many roundabouts are there going to be on Tig Lane. That's not really been answered, I don't think. The zoning charts are nice and colorful. Y'all might be able to understand those better than me or the crowd can. We don't get it, and I'm sorry. What we do understand is the massive amount of traffic that is coming, that's been there. I hate it for the folks that have bought into the fact that they can have these nice homes in Owl's Nest or whatever. I'm sorry, I can't even retain the names of the developments. But they've been promised these amenities. They didn't get them. You know, they're living down there, and I know it's been 2 or 3 years yet. And Kernersville, we need to do better now. I do want to quote from what we do get our news from, Caleb's Creek news features in Kernersville News, second column, paragraph 1. From the Planning Board staff report states that if the road construction were to not occur, the implication of adding additional residents to the area could be catastrophic on Tig Lane's level of service, particularly the intersection of Tig Lane and Old Salem Road, folks. It's already catastrophic 2 times a day when our school session's in. I promise you, it's terrible, terrible. It's horrendous. We need to do better. We need to take care of what we've got. Don't plan more than what we can bite off and take care of, and do it with quality and dignity and to the level of what we know Kernersville is achievable to.
Ms. Tucker, your time is up.
I got it. Thank you very much.
Okay. I know that emotions are running high, but if you could refrain from applause as well, okay? If you have to go cheer, feel free to step outside, okay? But we really do need to keep this quiet and orderly so every comment can be heard, okay? I appreciate your help with that. All right, next for 2 minutes is Adolphus Baker.
My name is Adolphus Baker. I live at 1691 Cooper's Hawk Drive. I think the first point I want to make and reiterate, which was previously addressed, is the trust issue. I don't personally know anybody that's in the developer, but the pattern has been more of a bait and switch kind of thing. And we just haven't been getting what we're supposed to get. There's always a finger pointing thing between them, the builder, et cetera. And that's just not acceptable. And it shouldn't be. I know a 28% tax increase, revenue increase sounds really nice. I mean, I wish somebody would do that for me. But is it worth it to continue to sell out? Specifically, one issue that is personal to me, and I know is not just me, the roads, because let's face it, you're probably going to end up doing whatever you want to do anyway to get that 28% increase. But as far as the roads, specifically Ogden School Road, if that could be some kind of real barrier between that and our neighborhood, specifically those buildings, you stand anywhere along the back of those buildings, of which one I'm in, and you throw a rock and hit the doggone traffic. All I'm saying is some kind of permanent barrier so that some drunk driver doesn't end up in my living room one night. Would be nice. Doesn't have to be that expensive, could just be trees. you know? So that, and might sound like a joke, but bring the golf course back. In all seriousness, even if it was just a doggone, what do you call it, the part threes. You know, you talk about recreation.
Mr.
Most
Baker,
of the people
your
where I
time is
live are
up.
old. Part three would be nice.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Your time is up.
Thank you.
All right, next I'll recognize Patricia Hall, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
My name is Patricia Hall. I live at 1327 Red Deer Drive, Kernersville. The problem that I have is that I live in the Deer Run development off of Glenview, and there is no exit. Glenview is one way in, and that's the only access. I live at the far end of Deer Run, and we were promised that there would be a road from Ogden School Lane to where I live. But I was told now that that will not take place until the last phase of this, rezoning, which is the spring of 2027, 3 years from now. We've already had a fire there, and it was hard for the fire department to enter. And the fire department has already contacted the city. We need an exit. In case of evacuation, what do we do? In case of an emergency, and evacuation is not unheard of in this day and age. So my request is that the phase be moved up, and that we get an access out of that community before 2027. I've already been there 3 years, and that was my first question when I bought into the community. And I was told that there would be an access from Ogden School Road, and that would be the way out. Now, on Glenview, D.I. Horton is building multiple homes there. And so that's going to also make it very hard to get out. From Teague Lane to Glenview, it's proposed now that they will also build homes to meet up with Glenview, with D.I. Horton's homes. So I'm just asking that you give us priority to get a way out of the neighborhood.
Ms. Hall, your time is up. Thank you.
I'll now recognize Barry Browning, and you have 2 minutes.
Barry Browning, 1751 Owls Trail. Since 2019, we've had a lot of things happen in the neighborhood, mainly these work trucks going in and out of Owls Trail entrance. 2 years ago, we were promised that if they did build phase 4, there would be a work exit and entrance off of Hedgecock. This year, we had another meeting in December. Well, that's changed. You're going to have to come down Owls Trail to get into that cul-de-sac. So things just change. And that's the upsetting part about some of these things that have been happening. And I agree with everything that the previous people have said before me, that this should be something simple. That clubhouse has been there ever since 2019. It's supposed to be open the next year. Hasn't gotten open yet. The pool was supposed to be open, hadn't gotten open yet. It's not the same as the one over on Weldon. There's shade, there's beautiful landscaping. I don't understand, you're gonna put a pool in, no sun, it's just gonna beat down on all the older people that wanna have some shade. They don't have that opportunity. There's things that need to be told to us and then acted on and not just magically appear. There's houses that were supposed to be built not be built on the right side of Al's Trail going in, near the pool. Now magically 3 or 4, 5, 6 houses are supposed to be built there. We don't know how many houses are supposed to be there. So it just, the plans have changed and changed and changed. And I don't know what else to say, but I do agree with everyone that has spoken before me, and I'm against making it the same as what we're dealing with now, which is trucks coming in and out and contractors coming in and out, with no way to get out at the end of that cul-de-sac. And that was promised to us at a meeting 2 years ago. Thank you.
Okay, next I'd like to recognize Sharon Grisgraber.
Hi, my name is Sharon Grisgraber. I live on 230 Patriot Court in Kernersville. There's some things that I did want to address that's like a kind of major concern. And some of it does deal with the traffic. And everybody's talking about the traffic on the other side. But what about your building almost all the way down Ogden School? What about 66? There are already so many wrecks. And the traffic is horrible. I don't know if they have anything proposed for 66 for all this traffic, because it's going to be really bad. And another thing, you know, like it's just, they keep building and building and building in the whole town. When's it going to stop? I mean, you know, how much are they going to build? Every square inch of Kernersville? You know, people in the county bought houses in the county not to be in, you know, in the city limits, and we know that's going to happen. You know that's going to happen. We know that's going to happen. We're going to be annexed in the city limits. You get a lot of people on Social Security, fixed incomes that have lived there for 40, 50 years. They're not going to be able to afford to have their taxes, you know, doubled, tripled and everything. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It just seems like people have built their lives there. And all, and I understand that Kernersville is going to, you know, progress. But I think you're doing everything just all at one time with no plan. And I think that this is going to end up being like, you know, really bad because, I don't know. It just seems like you have no thorough plan on traffic and all that, and the roads and all also, you know. And not just the number of houses being built. I mean, they're on top of each other. You know what I mean? And I don't know. That's about all that I want to say. But I do, the big thing I'm concerned about is everybody being annexed in and what our taxes are going to be.
Thank you, Ms. Grisgraber. Okay. Now there is an opportunity for rebuttal by proponents if you choose to take it. If you do not choose to take it, then there will be no further opportunity for the opponents to speak.
Madam Mayor, on behalf of BOMA, we waive rebuttal.
Sorry.
All right, then there will be no further comments. If there's not a rebuttal by the proponent, then there is not offered a counter rebuttal. Do the aldermen have any questions of staff or any of the speakers or anyone else here tonight at this public hearing? Do you have any questions of anybody? Okay. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Shall we deliberate now, or do we need a brief recess? Okay, let's proceed then with deliberations. Is there any comments? Or do I have a motion? Well, actually, just to clarify, we've had two different, we've got the development plan and we've got the rezoning. So first we'll address items 1A, which is the Kernersville development plan. Are there any comments or do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I have a motion. I would move to deny the request for amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance of the town of Kernersville on the basis that the rezoning request is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan, which calls for mixed use in this area with a specified vision for the Union Cross and I-40 corridor, and does not fulfill the purpose statement of the mixed-use conditional zoning district as defined in UDO 2.2-1.5 parentheses C.
Do you have that written out for the clerk?
Yes, ma'am. Circled.
So we're going to do the land use plan first. We haven't voted on 1A yet. Would you like to would you like to withdraw your motion?
Let me withdraw that motion. I got the cart before the horse, Madam Mayor. I apologize.
Okay, so let me repeat. First, we're going to address item 1A, which is the Kernersville Development Plan. That's zoning docket KDP 66. And after we do that, then we'll go on to item 1B, which is the public hearing on the rezoning, zoning docket K570A4. So first I'm looking for comments, discussion, or a motion on the public hearing for the Kernersville Development Plan, zoning docket KDP 66.
I apologize for that, Madam Mayor. I had written out two motions and I read the wrong one first.
All
I
right.
apologize. In lieu of the motion which I have just withdrawn, I would move for denial of the resolution for portions of pins 6873-89-0200 and 6874-64-2955 because the mixed-use components of the 2016 zoning better match the community vision for this area as defined in the adopted land use plan, which calls for three major traditional neighborhood design components to be included, which are residential development, neighborhood serving commercial development, and a street grid layout with pedestrian and bicycle facilities. In addition, the plan calls for commercial development in the Union Cross and I-40 corridor, with specifically a business park in the southeast quadrant, which is consistent with the business center designation. So I move for denial.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Bill Apple. Do I have a second?
I'd second that, Madam.
I'm hearing it from everywhere. Who said it first? Mr. Barrow?
I would second that motion.
All right, I have a second by Mr. Barrow. All those in favor of denial signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, so that was everyone was in favor of the motion to deny as proposed, as made by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. Mr. Clerk, did you get the vote?
Yes, that's Mayor Pro Tem Apple with a motion, Alderman Barrow with a second, and the vote was 5-0.
Okay. All right, second, we're going to consider the zoning, which is case K 570A4, which was agenda item 1B.
Madam Mayor, now that I've proven that I can read this one that we wrote as well, I would move to deny the request for amendment of the UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance of the town of Kernersville, on the basis that the rezoning request is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan, which calls for mixed use in this area with a specified vision for the Union Cross and I-40 corridor, and does not fulfill the purpose statement of the mixed-use conditional zoning district as defined in UDO 2-1.5, parentheses C.
Okay, I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. Do I have a second? A second by Alderman Thompson. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Mr. Swisher, is there anything else we need to do on either of these agenda items?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we'll move on then to the public session. First, I want to thank everyone for their participation in this public hearing. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out, and to the developers, to the opponents, we really appreciate everyone taking their time to be here tonight to express their aspirations and concerns. So we'll move on to item 2, which is the public session. Our first item is speakers from the floor. If you'd like to address the board on a non-agenda item, that would mean something that is not already included on the agenda. This is the opportunity to do so. We have speaker cards in the back. Mr. Hooker, have we received anyone signing up to speak for a speaker from the floor?
Madam Mayor.
1 minute. Have you gotten any cards?
I have not.
Okay, if there's anyone here who'd like to address the board on an item not included on the agenda, if you could fill out a speaker card and bring it to the front. But it can't be on this public hearings that we just had. All right, moving on, we've got item B, which is consideration of a temporary street closure request and a downtown event request by Kirby Fest 5K Color Run. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor, you have in your packet the request. It's for an event on August the 19th. It will take place beginning and ending at Harmon Park. The only road that we will close off, there's 2 roads. We'll close off Cherry Street from probably 9:30 a.m. to about 11, and we'll close it off at Oakhurst Street and Mountain Street, and then we'll close off Harmon Lane beside the park. So this course, we've used it several times in the past. You have another request tonight to use the same course. It's for a 5K. They also have an officer that will be stationed at Oakhurst Street and McConnell that will stop traffic as they cross over. So we can't do it on Cherry Street because it's so long there and there's so many people. But we've used it before in the past with Declan's Dash, also with a couple more runs. Never had any issue out of it because we leave Main Street open, so folks going up that are going up Cherry Street can just turn up Oakhurst and get on Main Street and turn right back down.
That route seems to work very well for Declan's Dash. How many years have we done the Declan's Dash? Maybe 8?
We did Declan's Dash probably for 6 years maybe, and then I think we've had 3 or 4 more races utilize this course. There's usually about 4 in town that we use, and this is one of them.
Okay, and then the request is to approve the temporary street closure request?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Got a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Barrow. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. We'll take a break after the next agenda item if that suits everyone.
You want to do C and D both because we're both about the same?
Okay.
Okay. Item C is also a road closure. It's a little different. We did this last year. Josh Pratt with Savage Roasters. He put the event on last year, and it is a kind of a street festival with some live music, food truck vendors. They raise money for breast cancer. Last year he had the 5K, and then the part after that was Bruisapalooza. So you probably remember closing the street for that. This year it's still just All Mounds Matter. It worked out well last year. It's on Sunday morning from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the Main Street will be closed off from Church Lane up to about Bodenhammer. We'll have access around, kind of Railroad Street. During the 5K, Railroad Street will be blocked off, but, at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's not a big issue. He will also have officers out there as he did last year, and then he'll have officers there with the event as well. that takes place after that. So the biggest portion of that time will be the event with the food truck, live music, and vendors. Had it last year, went over well. No real problems from the event last year. Item D is a Home Builders Association 5K. They were initially scheduled to have this 5K in Winston-Salem. It conflicted with a football game, actually, that Wake Forest is having. So they asked to move it to Kernersville. It will be on the same course that the one starts at the park on Declan's Dash course. And it will be on September the 9th from 8 to 10 a.m. Street closure for that one will be the same, be Cherry Street from Oakhurst up to Mountain, and then Harmon Lane right beside the park. And they'll also have an officer at McConnell and Oakhurst.
Okay, do I have a motion as to item C, which is the event by Savage Roasters? Motion for approval by Mayor Pro Tem Apple, second.
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, next is item D, which is the street closure request and downtown event request by the Home Builders Association for their 5K. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'd make a motion, Madam Mayor, to approve.
Okay, got a motion by Alderman Barrow. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we will declare a brief recess. Please try and come back timely. We'll stay. Welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. We are to item 2E, which is in the public session, consideration of a resolution setting the date of a public hearing for a voluntary annexation petition by the property owners for properties located at 0 Union Cross Road containing 36.487 acres more or less. Mr. Swisher? Ms. Garner?
This is an annexation petition accompanying a rezoning that's entered the queue for property at Union Cross Road. On the eastern side, they're at Glen High Road.
Sorry, my mouse went out during the public hearing, so I'm slower. Not the best timing. Okay, so you need a motion to approve the resolution?
Yes, a resolution to set the date for the hearing.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion for approval by Alderman Thompson, second. Second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. Hooker, did you get the required information? All right, we will move on then to item F, which is discussion and consideration of the sale of real property to the NCDOT. Mr. Swisher, is this one you?
Yeah, Madam Mayor and Board, this is for a very small amount of property, as you can see, from the property the town owns there at the corner of Shields and Union Cross Road. DOT is widening Union Cross Road as you go north from Fieldcrest subdivision up to Shields Road. So it's the field that the town just bought containing about 53 acres. They need a very small portion of that as permanent right of way, and then they'll have some as a temporary construction easement and whatnot. It's basically, if you go out and look at the property, it's pretty much the slope. There's a property drops off from the road down to the field. So not a whole lot of property, it's nothing we would build on if we had. It's marked off if you've been out there and you've seen the temporary fencing that is up, it's about 5 to 10 foot from the fencing as you go toward the road. It's that section from that point to the road. So, you know, the road improvement will be a big plus in that area. They will be adding a right turn lane as well as they'll have a straight lane and then a left turn lane that's already there, but they will be adding a right turn lane at that stoplight.
It sounds like a good improvement.
And one is very much needed, for sure. And the offer, as you can see, is $5,500. That's for $5,550. That's for the temporary easements as well as the right-of-way.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Alderman Thompson.
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Moving on to item G, consideration of an ordinance for Budget Amendment 1.
Madam Mayor and Board, you have the budget amendment in front of you. We have approximately about 13 amendments to expenditures. All of those are items that were budgeted and already ordered in fiscal year 22-23. They have not yet arrived. We have not paid for them, so we have to carry that expense over. Some of those do have revenues to offset it. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have about any specific one of those, but again, it's all equipment that was budgeted and not spent at the end of fiscal year 22-23.
Okay, any discussion or questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Motion for approval by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Moving on to item H, consideration of a resolution authorizing a payment to Union Cross Fire and Rescue Department. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, this is a process that's required by North Carolina General Statute. When we annex property, if it comes in voluntary or involuntary, either one, we have to pay a portion of the fire district tax as it relates to the annual debt service of the corresponding station. So when we annex property, the value of that property that comes out as it's related to their revenue, we have to reimburse them as a percentage of their annual debt. So you can see those calculations in there. This is for the property that was annexed for Windsor Homes off Watkins Ford Road several months ago. So they have calculated what the loss in revenue would be. It's $936.12. So we are required to reimburse that to Union Cross Fire Department. We have to do that regardless of which fire department it is if they have some annual debt that's tied to that fire tax revenue.
Okay, sounds like a good idea to combine the several years together.
Yeah, I think you have to do it, I think it's for 5 years, and I think that's what, or 6 years, and that's what we've calculated out through there. Or maybe actually just however long their annual debt payment is for. So this one goes through 2027.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'd make a motion to approve.
A motion by Alderman Barrow, second. Second by Alderman Thompson. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, we are to item I, consideration of a resolution declaring an intent to reimburse for the purchase of equipment. Item J, which is consideration of a resolution declaring an intent to reimburse for the purchase of general improvements. And K, consideration of a resolution declaring an intent to reimburse for the purchase of a fire truck and equipment.
All of this is for equipment that was approved in the fiscal year 23-24 budget. It's what this does if we pay for it before we get the loan. This allows us to go back and reimburse ourselves after we get the loan. So we do this up front just in case we pay for something before the loan comes in. And it is for all the equipment, the general improvements, and then the fire truck.
Okay, we'll first vote on item I, which is the reimbursement for the equipment. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Got a motion by Alderman Penix,
Second.
second by Alderman Thompson. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. It was, John, did you vote yes? Okay. All right. Item J, that is the intent to reimburse for the purchase of general improvements. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Apple, second.
Second.
Alderman Gorham with the second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Item K is the purchase of the fire truck and equipment. Do I have a motion to approve? Got a motion from Alderman Barrow, and I have a second from Alderman Penix. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item 3 is the consent agenda. All of these matters are considered to be routine by the board and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the matter will be removed from the consent agenda and considered under the following item. A, approval of minutes for the April 26th closed session. B, approval of minutes for the June 6th closed session. C, approval of minutes for the June 12th closed session. D, approval of minutes for the June 12th regular meeting. E, approval of minutes for the June 28th regular meeting. F, consideration of an automatic aid agreement with Oak Ridge Fire and Rescue. And G, Forsyth County tax refund. Is there any board member or staff or citizen who'd like to see any of these items removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I've got a motion by Alderman Thompson, a second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we've got the town manager's report. Mr. Swisher.
I do not have anything.
Matters to be presented by the town attorney. Mr. Powell.
Madam Mayor, I do not have a report either.
Any other further matters to be presented? Okay. All right, matters to be presented by the mayor and board of aldermen. I'll start with Mr. Thompson.
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrow. All right, go ahead. Speak into your microphone for us, though.
Number one, I'd like to remind Ernie that we're going to build a community pool. The second thing is a citizen asked me about the trash drop-off. Dorian, is Dorian here? The trash drop-off has been closed for a year, somebody told me, because of something. You know what I'm talking about down
There's,
there?
there's one that county runs.
Recycling center?
The
or whatever.
recycling center,
Is that it? It's been closed for a year. What's the
it
deal?
had, it's not ours. We lease, the building, we lease the building to the county. So
What
I
are
had
they
to,
doing?
one of the waste management trucks backed into one of the beams.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, and we worked with the county on it, and they've gotten a quote to get it fixed, and I don't know, it's been several months since they've gotten a quote, and I don't know when they plan to start work. Crystal, have you heard when they plan to start work? Yeah, so it's kind of on them. We lease them and they run the operation. We don't have anything to do with the operation at all, except for we just lease it to the
It
county.
makes us look bad. So we need to take the lease away from them and do it ourselves, or get on their butt and make them fix it, get on.
Yeah,
the
we don't-
program. People are complaining.
We don't have any need to do it because it's for recycling, and for those folks that live in the town limits, we pick up the recycling anyway. So that's strictly for the folks that live in the county. So we wouldn't run an operation to pick up the county folks' recycling. But I agree with you, they probably do need to get on the stick and get it fixed.
Looks like it's us.
I agree, and we get several calls or emails about it. We have a number to refer them to in the county, and I don't know, honestly, I don't know if they intend to open it back up or what. They've not really given us an answer.
Cool, well, thank you.
Are you talking with someone who lives inside the town limits?
Yeah, they live in town.
What are they trying to dispose of?
Well, I mean, just because the town has the time to pick up certain things doesn't mean that that's when you want to get rid of it, you know? And people were using it, you know.
Are they looking for disposing of trash or disposing
No,
of recycling?
the recycling stuff, you know, and, anyhow, they complained. I was just bringing it to your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might need your microphone
I
on.
don't have my recycling ready in bulk when they come by maybe. So when I have a Saturday, I want to go down there, and it's not available. So it's important to people in the city.
Yeah, and I think, Wendy, you might know better, does our bulky item, you can take recycling it, correct? If you're a Kernersville resident? Yeah. Can you take it to the bulky item pickup there? Do they have a recycling bin there? I think they do.
Well, I mean, I pay county taxes too.
Yeah, but I'm saying that Kernersville, if you're a Kernersville resident, you can take it to our bulky item drop-off, and I think we have a recycling bin there as well.
Okay.
If you're a Kernersville resident.
Is that at the top of the hill there?
That's
one
at the
them
top of
gates
the
up
hill,
there?
yes, sir.
Every time I go by, it's closed.
Yeah, it's open 3 days a week from 7 to 1 or something.
Okay.
Part-time, so.
Okay. Every time I've been by, it's been closed, but.
Yeah, I think it's 7 to 1 or 7 to 2.
Okay. I know, well, you know how that goes.
Wendy, do you know what days it's open? Yes, please, because,
But I do agree, Alderman Barrow, they really either need to open it up or put a sign up that says
I know,
we've
so they're
closed
gonna
it
close
permanently.
it, yeah. Thank you.
Kurt,
That's all I have.
to his point, how do we put pressure on them to do so?
I'm Wendy Harlow, Stormwater Manager in place of Doran Maltwa today. The drop-off site hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday from 7 to 1.
and there's recycling and a dumpster and bulk item drop-off there?
I believe so, yes.
Could you direct me where you could tell somebody to go look on the Kernersville webpage or whatever to find that? Or?
So if you click on the Public Services main page and scroll all the way to the bottom, that's where it tells the drop-off site hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has our phone number so you can call and double check. But I'm pretty sure they've got a recycle thing there. They have everything else. So you just have to prove you're a citizen.
Thank you.
And I think Alderman Thompson asked if we can put some pressure on them. We've talked to them, and we send them now the calls, and we talk to them, communicate with them, not all the time, but it's like, hey, we're getting calls wanting to know when you're gonna open this up. It's not seemed to really have any impact on them speeding up the process. They did ask, I know they asked Dorn some time ago about doing some improvements there at the place, like paving the parking lot and maybe painting the building and this and that. So we gave them, said, okay, if we do that, your lease will be X, because, obviously we try to recover as much as we can of those improvements, or you can do the improvements, one of the two. And we really never heard anything back from that. So they've just kind of went silent on it. I did ask, I think I asked Angie Whitley probably 3 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago, and she said then that's when they've gotten the quote back. And the contractor has been contacted as well and is waiting on the county, is my understanding. So I may be able to find the email. Let me see.
Curtis, would it get in your way if I spoke with the county commission chairman to see if he could move things along?
It wouldn't bother me.
Okay. I don't want to get in your way, but if that wouldn't hurt, I'll be glad to talk to him.
No, that's fine with me. On July the 3rd, actually, Andrew replied to me, he said, the insurance company has accepted the repair estimate for RPM. RPM is supposed to begin repairs. Not sure the exact date. And so there's no exact date that we know of when that may be.
Hey, Ms. Hardup, did you have additional information?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Dorn sent a message just to say that we do take everything at the drop-off center. So everything's available.
So if they're a Kernersville resident, they can come to the drop-off center. That would work for Saturday morning, Joe.
And also Dorn just said that they do intend to reopen. They just have to wait to get it repaired, but we don't have a date yet.
It probably would be helpful if the Kernersville News could be given kind of an update on that, and that to people to know that there is an alternate site right up the street. Wendy, if you please, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Barrow, did you have anything else? You set your microphone aside, so I thought maybe that was, okay. Mr. Apple, do you have anything this evening?
No, ma'am, I do not. Thank my colleagues up here on the board for their decisive action and everything we did tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Gorham?
Yes, I need to get some information for a couple of our constituents here in Kernersville in regards to the water turnoff. Last week, I guess, I had several telephone calls that we had cut the water off in certain neighborhoods, and they said that they never received any notice of the water being cut off.
We did not cut the water off. City County Utilities, and I called them right when it happened because we were my husband had we were cleaning out the garage, and I was missing I'd missed bulk item pickup, but at any rate. We were cleaning out the garage, walked in, no water. I called them immediately, and they had no good answer, so.
Yeah, they were flushing some lines in the area, and something obviously didn't go right, and a pump malfunctioned and failed. So when that pump went down, I think it went down probably around 10 o'clock maybe. There were lots of areas in Kernersville without water, obviously your area. Most of Mountain Street, just about from the square to the YMCA was out. I think from the YMCA going west still had it. South Main Street had it from about Pineview maybe. North Main Street didn't have it, so it was in different areas. We didn't have it here at Town Hall. My neighborhood somehow had it when the Y didn't. So it was in a large portion of Kernersville was out, but it was, again, it's like the mayor said, I mean, no notice was given because they didn't know it was going to happen. We received several calls here. Some of the folks, we checked the message. We did return the call, tell them that they needed to call City County Utilities. So they put out some information about it Saturday morning, I think around 11:30 maybe. on the news, put it on WXI's website, maybe Fox 8, and said, you know, we've had a pump malfunction. We hope to have it back up and running by 4 p.m. I don't know when it got back up and running, but that's the time they were anticipating.
So they do this periodically to
No, if they know they're going to do it, they send out a notice, but this one just broke.
okay.
The pump went down. They flush the lines periodically, but that usually doesn't happen when they flush the lines.
It's a non-event when they flush the lines. People are not even aware that it is being flushed. But because of the fact that the pump went down when they flushed it this time, that's what caused the water to be discontinued to people's houses.
Correct. Most of the time when they flush the lines, the complaints we get is the folks will have muddy water, something like that in the house. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it seems to more often than not that does.
But they do give a notice when they're gonna flush the lines? And how is that notice communicated to the public?
I don't think this time they did, and I think sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We got a call Friday from a gentleman that lives over off of Salisbury Street and behind Century Park. They'd flushed his line and evidently flushed it all back up into the house, which is not supposed to happen either.
Yeah, he was a happy camper.
Yeah, he was real happy. Sometimes they give notice, sometimes they don't, because, and I think it depends on which type of line flush they're doing. If they do the one where they know that the water, some of them they cut the water off. If they do those, they do give notice. If they're doing the one where they don't turn the water off, then they don't, because they're not expecting any problems, and usually that's the ones when they have a problem.
But when they give a notice, how do they communicate that to the public? What's the medium they use?
They, in the past, have sent out door hangers, put it on their door. If they have the folks email from their account, they can send it out that way. Just different ways to communicate that. I know in the past it has been door hangers, and they'll say, hey, we're going to turn your water off on such and such a day at such and such a time. I've also received a letter in the mail. If they know far enough ahead of time, they'll send it out. But usually just doing a flush of the line like they're doing, and they've been doing it in different areas of Kernersville. It's the big jet vac trucks that you see from city county utilities. That's what they're doing. Again, if they're not really doing anything major, they will not turn the water off unless they break something.
Okay.
Which unfortunately happens.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
In following up to my experience, if you went to their website, which I did about 11 after 10, there was no notice published, but they say to call CityLink 311, but you can't. If you live in Kernersville, you've got to call the full phone number. And Public Services did put that full phone number on the, if you call Public Services in Kernersville, once we figured it out, that full number was on and is still on. If you have water concerns, they get the full number. And there's an email form you can fill out, and I did that before I could get someone on the phone. And I did get a message back that said if it's a water problem, just call them and don't fill that out, because they have 72 hours to respond to those. And I did ask the lady, is there any kind of notification about like the outage or that sort of thing, or how to sign up for alerts? And she was not aware of a way I could do that. But I saw in the paper they've offered that. But I was concerned that the coverage in the paper was that it was kind of a non-event to have your water interrupted, because I think it would be nice to have notice or an alert that it wasn't just something local to your street or something.
That's the basic complaint that I received, is that they weren't given noticed. If they had been given notice, they could plan around it, right? But when you don't get notice and all of a sudden, you're in the middle of a shower or whatever and you have no water, it's a major inconvenience for folks, as you kind of personally experience yourself. Thank you very much.
I guess the follow-up question, Mr. Swisher, is did they give an indication of when they would be finished flushing the lines in Kernersville?
They have not told us whether they are or not. And ironically, I just got an email from someone that said they're listening to the meeting tonight. Wanted to know if they flushed the lines again because their water is disgusting. They didn't get any notice, nothing on social media, and it's bad enough they don't trust drinking it. They don't live in the city limits, so they could be flushing them out in the county still. I have not seen any of the trucks in Kernersville the last 3 days, probably. So I don't know. I don't know if they're still flushing those lines or not. I can contact them tomorrow and find out. And if they are, we can post something on our Facebook page to let folks know that they're still doing that. So, you know, they don't tell us usually much more than they tell the citizens. They kind of go out and do their own thing. It's like when they tear the road up, they don't give us a whole lot of notice of that either until you ride down it and there's trucks out tearing it up. So, but we'll make that call tomorrow and see if they're still out doing any flushing and let everybody know if they are. And try to find out what area they may be in so we can update.
Thank you. Anything else, JR?
No, Madam Mayor.
Joe, did you have anything?
No, ma'am.
And just thought the parade and 4th of July and everything seemed to go very well. We've had a good summer of events with Juneteenth in June and the 4th of July celebrations, and we've got another big one coming up that a lot of people have really enjoyed, and it is a very long-running tradition. We have the Honeybee Festival coming up in August, so that is at our shadiest park, 4th of July Park, with lots of trees to enjoy the shade in the hot August day. So if you enjoy outdoor community events in Kernersville, that is a good one to come to. And of course, National Night Out, which is next Tuesday at the Farmers Market Shelter, which is just here at Town Hall. See, is there any further business before the board? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn? Got a motion by Alderman Thompson.
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us.